Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. In today's video, we'll be talking about the top 10 most important players to Tennessee's roster heading into 2024 for the football team, of course. And we'll also be talking about Coach Josh Heupel's personality. Does he have the proper traits that we would need to win a national title? We know that some coaches might be a little bit too laid back, a little bit too nice. Other coaches are, maybe a little bit too stern, too much of a-holes, for lack of a better term. But we'll be covering all of that today. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. All right, so I made my top 10 based off of the most important positions to this team on offense and defense, and based off of the players that we can't really afford to lose. If they go down, there's a big drop off in talent, from who's going to be coming in to fill their shoes. So keep that in mind as we're moving forward. At number 10, we have Jamal McCoy. He's the transfer cornerback from Oregon State. Did a beautiful job there of shutting down all different body types, different guys with speed, quickness, all that. Does a beautiful job in coverage. He's also physical, gets off blocks well. He'll come up and he'll tackle. And he's not just a good cornerback because he's big and he's fast, has all the proper skill set that you would need to be an elite cornerback, but also because he used to play wide receiver. So he sees things a little bit differently than most secondary players will. And I think that he can help our secondary out that's a little bit younger because of that. Also, whenever you talk about just being more of a shutdown cornerback, him and Ricky Gibson giving us tighter coverage, that's going to go hand in hand with our pass rush. Now we're talking about guys like James Pierce, Joshua Josephs, everybody up front having more opportunities to get to the quarterback because he's going to be holding the ball a little bit longer. And with that being said, we should have more players get drafted coming up in 2025. That's going to help us to get more blue chip caliber players moving forward. So Jamal McCoy is going to be very important. If he does go down, I think we've got some other guys that can come in and play at a high level, but not at that elite level. So losing him would be very, detrimental to this team. I don't know if we'll make it to a national title. I mean, we probably could. Just have to switch up our scheme some. At that point, we'll see how good our pass rush really is because they're going to have to do it, playing with the back end that's doing a lot more cover three where the ball's probably going to be getting out of the quarterback's hands a little bit faster. But you got to find a way to win because injuries do occur. Knock on wood, not wishing that on anybody. But I think that Jamal McCoy is definitely going to be the best cornerback on this team this season. Maybe, probably in the SEC and maybe in the entire country. Now on to number 9, we've got Kobe Thomas playing in the middle of that defense. It's so important on offense and defense, the players in the middle on all three levels. And him playing at safety, probably going to be more of the strong safety body, but we kind of flip our guys. Sometimes they'll be at strong, sometimes they'll be playing more free, which is kind of like a center fielder and more in pass coverage. But I think that he can do it all. Again, talking about the secondary being very young, he's more of a veteran playing at Middle Tennessee State. Not going up against the best competition. They did play up against Alabama last season. I think he played well in that game. But just from seeing college level offenses, a lot of the schemes are going to be pretty much the same. If you've seen as much as he has, he's going to understand what the offense is trying to do. He should be able to help get everyone lined up and get into the right situations for our team. I think he's going to be really good in coverage. I think he's going to be great coming up in run support. And he's going to be very sound in his fundamentals of tackling, getting off blocks, playing with proper leverage. But I also think that in critical games, whenever he gets those chances, he'll take those kill shots. And that's important going up against teams like Georgia that like to try to bully ball you. Show them that you ain't going to be scared, that you ain't going to back down. So important just for the mindset of this team. I also think that he's going to help us in the locker room. Just kind of hearing him, speak some on the Players Lounge videos, you can tell that he's one of those leaders. So very important to have him. If he does go down, it's going to be tough for us to make it to a national title. I think that maybe we can still make it to the playoffs, but I mean, the drop off between him and whoever will be coming in behind him is going to be pretty significant. I would think that maybe what we would do is move a guy like Jordan Thomas from star to his position at safety, and then we can move Boo Carter to star and hope that he can pick up playing SEC ball, in live game situations really, really quickly. If that does happen, then we should be okay. But Kobe Thomas, definitely important to this team. Now at number 8, we're sticking with the safeties. We're going to be talking about Andre Turrentine and John Slaughter. Don't know who's going to be starting here, but they're both probably equally as important. Now with Andre Turrentine, a lot of folks think that he's going to be the starter because he's the older player. He's played more football in the SEC and really Power 5 in general. But he looks good in coverage. I would say that he's probably better in coverage than John Slaughter is, but he's not going to be as good as, at being physical, at coming up in run support. That's where John Slaughter will be better, right? And that's so important just because, man, playing at safety, you have got to kind of like be that lane guy. You got to come down and fill. And if you can't do that, then our defense is just not going to be that good. We've seen that, not necessarily so much last season where the problem was really more they weren't athletic enough to be great in coverage. We don't have that issue this season. But, I would say in 2022, 2021, our safeties just were not physical. They did not want any parts of coming up and being fast to get in on tackles. So that's why I think I tend to prefer John Slaughter a little bit more. That's a very important position. Now, if one of these players goes down, then the other one can step in, and it shouldn't be a huge drop-off. But if they both go down, then, yeah, we are in very serious trouble. I don't see any realistic way that we'll make it to even, I would say, the playoffs. But number 7, we've got Dane Davis, who is a do-it-all player on the offensive line. That swing tackle, he could play either guard or he could play center for us. So very important from that perspective. But really at number 7, I want to talk again about the middle of the offense, the middle of the defense. Extremely, extremely critical. Now, we're talking about at left guard. So important because we've seen teams like Georgia be able to shut our entire offense down just from getting pressure up the middle on a consistent basis. And Cooper Mays, even though he's gained a lot of weight since 2022, he still isn't that big for a center. So it might be difficult for him to block some of these bigger bodies. That's where you're going to need some help at from your guards. I don't know if Dane Davis is going to be a starter at the left guard position, but he could end up being that. So not just Dane Davis here. I would say that he would be 1A for number 7, but we could also throw Shamrod Umarov, Jackson Lampley, and Andre Carrick, and I guess Aiden Bustle into that mix as well. Left guards are going to be very important to this team. If Dane Davis goes down, we're going to be in pretty big trouble because now we can't afford any, mishaps. We can't really afford for anyone to miss any time anywhere else on this offensive line, especially at tackle, even though we heard that Larry Johnson has been looking pretty good. That will be pretty detrimental to this offense. Now, at number 6, might kind of be a shocker to some of y'all, but I've got James Pierce, and I've got him at number 6 because he is important to this team, number 1, but more so because maybe not as important as some people think. And the reason for that is because we have so many bodies inside of that room that can get to the quarterback, especially thinking that the secondary is going to be a lot tighter in coverage. There's going to be a lot more opportunities. So for those reasons, he's not higher up on this list, but he is on the list in the top 10 because, yeah, he's special. He's going to command double teams, triple teams, chips, all different types of things. Offensive coordinators are going to be, picking their hair out, trying to figure out how can we stop James Pierce every week. And again, while he's out on the field, everyone's going to get a lot more opportunities because all that attention will be dedicated to James Pierce. So a very important player. We already know what I'm about to say next. If something happens, then I think that we are still going to be a, playoff team, maybe not necessarily a championship caliber team, because going up against teams in the playoffs in critical situations, you need that dog. You need that guy up front that can get to the quarterback on a, 3rd and 7, 3rd and long, 3rd and medium. You need those guys. And if you don't have them, it's going to be very tough to win those ball games. Now, can somebody else step up along the way throughout the season? I think that they can. But let's move on to the next player. Speaking of pass rush, let's talk about blocking that pass rush for Nico's blind side. At number 5, we have Lance Hurd. Now, obviously, because he is blocking Nico's blind side, he's going to be extremely important on this offensive line. But I don't even think that he's the most important player on the offensive line. And the reason for that is Nico's very mobile, and he's just got that it factor, right? Like if he feels the pressure coming, he knows how to get out of it. He can extend plays, or he can just create plays with his legs. And, he's got a beautiful arm. I think that his timing, touch, anticipation is going to be really, really good. So Lance Hurd will be important, but he's not, higher up on the list because Nico can kind of help to offset wherever he messes up at. But not just that with Lance Hurd. It's not just about pass protection. It's also going to be about run blocking. We heard Cube talking about Lance Hurd being a body mover. That is important because we haven't seen a whole lot of that out of this offense. We know that part of that is based off of the scheme, but it's also just because we haven't had the players that were necessarily capable of doing it. Now having that, we're talking about, man, look, our running backs should be averaging, maybe 6 to 7 yards per carry, which opens up everything else. It's always going to be that chess match. So I think that Lance Hurd will end up being the best left tackle that we've had in quite some time at the University of Tennessee. Now on to number 4, we have Javante Spragins, and he's so important because he's going to be right there with Cooper Mays. We talked about getting the pressure up the middle. Sprags is going to be the best person to help Cooper Mays out. Really good in run support. He's a dog. He's also really good in pass protection. So very critical for us. And, if that thing does happen, then our team is probably going to take a gigantic leap backwards. And I don't see us making it to the playoffs. I just don't think that we have enough quality depth behind Sprags for that to be very feasible. Now, can someone step up throughout the season? Yeah, but what we're talking about is potentially moving somebody that's a starter somewhere else to the right guard position. And that's going to be a big time problem. So Spraggs is going to be very important for us. At number 3, we have Keenan Pye. Now, Keenan Pye is another one. He's played for a long time. He understands what the offense is trying to do, so he should be able to get us lined up in the right spots. We kind of talked about the headsets. He might not even need it. It's because he knows so much about football. Now we can give those headsets to another player on the team right there, probably next to Keenan Pye, and, their IQ goes up, right? It makes that player that much better. So that right there in and of itself is extremely critical. But now let's talk about him actually playing, physically. Unbelievable talent. I mean, perfect size for a linebacker, perfect speed, all of that. He's identifying the plays quickly, but he's also getting there quickly. He's almost impossible to block. It doesn't matter if he beats you with speed or with power, just extremely, extremely valuable to this team. And we only got to see him in one game last season. So, we didn't get to see that as much on display. But if he stays healthy this year, along with what he can do as a pass rusher, okay, like blitzing that quarterback and also in pass coverage, man, alongside everyone else on this defense, all the other talent, it just adds so much more depth. And, I think that it's going to be almost impossible if that thing does happen for us to get to a national title without him. I would say heading into the playoffs, like that is where we're going to need him at the most, going up against those really, really good teams. But I absolutely love Keenan Pye, and I'm looking forward to him having a very, very successful send-off season to the NFL with our Volunteers. Now, at number 2, we have Cooper Mays. So important because he does a lot of the getting the offense lined up, right? Like the tempo is going to be predicated off of him and Nico. Nico's got to be ready, but he has to be ready first. So you see him hustling all the time, and you saw how we looked losing to Florida last season without him. I mean, there's just no way in the world that if he was playing that Tennessee's, even close in that game, I think that we would have won it by 2 or 3 touchdowns. We were that much better than Florida. But the center position is so critical, and it was such a big drop-off from Cooper Mays to the next person that there was just, almost no way for us to be able to get that victory. And I wouldn't say that the, drop-off is going to be as steep this season, but there have been some question marks about Bison Lang. I think that he can step up because he's a little bit bigger, right? Cooper Mays is a smaller guy, but he's more of a veteran. He's definitely a technician at what he does. But Bison Lang is, 330, 340 pounds. So where where Cooper Mays kind of had the issue at with blocking those bigger bodies, I think that Bison Lang won't have those same issues. But I will say this, Cooper Mays is absolutely critical to this team's success. We've heard everyone talking about it. And if that thing happens, then there's just no way. I don't even think playoffs would be a realistic option for us, just in all honesty. Now, at number 1, we have, of course, Nico Lawrence. And we all know why, right? Because quarterback is the most important position on the football field. This team is really only going to go as far as Nico goes. Now, we just talked about 9 other players. If that thing happens with any of them, Nico can be the one to offset that, okay? But he has got to stay healthy. That's going to be the most important player for us to keep healthy. And we are anticipating that he will be able to make those plays. Great speed, like we talked about, great touch, great timing, great anticipation. Just kind of sees the field almost like he's playing backyard football or almost like he's playing Madden or something. It's a beautiful thing to watch, and I think that he does win the Heisman this season. So that's my top 10. Let me know y'all's down in the comment section. Let's go ahead and move on to Coach Heupel's personality as a coach, and is it good enough for us to win a national title? All right, so starting off in 2023, Michigan won the national title. Their head coach was Jim Harbaugh, and I think that he's kind of a jerk, but not really. He's more weird than anything else. I think that he's more of that player's coach. So we'll kind of put that in the column of not a jerk. Then we'll go on to 2022 and 21. Kirby Smart wins it with Georgia. Most definitely is a jerk. In 2020, Alabama, Nick Saban. Yes, he was a jerk. 2019, LSU, Ed Orgeron. I would say he's more of a jerk, but he's a little bit more in the middle. 2018, Clemson with Dabo. Not a jerk. Same thing for 2016, Clemson and Dabo. So, that's good. That kind of goes into the more of like a hypo coach category. 2017, another Saban. 15, another Saban. And then 2014, we've got Urban Meyer, most definitely is a jerk. 2013, Jimbo Fisher, he is also definitely a jerk. All right, so looking at that list, we can tell that most of the head coaches that are winning national titles are more of that jerk personality. But we do have guys on there like Dabo Swinney, and Dabo Swinney, he had a reputation, especially kind of early on, as being the guy that does the right thing by everybody all the time. But here lately, he's not a jerk to his players, or, at least not that we can see. But definitely a jerk to the media sometimes and to his fans sometimes. So I think that him not being a jerk and not being that villain, being that good guy, I think that that's kind of gone out the window, and it's hurting him tremendously. Now, with Coach Heupel, we've seen him kind of starting off the way that Dabo started off in being that good person, not only to his players, but to the fans and to the media. Just never seen him get out of character. And I think that that's just who he is. That's more important because I kind of feel like Dabo was putting on this front and just acting like he was a nice guy when really deep down he's kind of a jerk like all of the rest of them. So where Dabo had that success from being a really good person, or having a reputation of being a really good person, I think that Josh Heupel is going to have the same success here coming up very, very soon. I would think that this year should be one of our, first years. Like we're in that window where we can kind of be like how Clemson was, where, they are in the championship talks every single season. Now, the other coach that I feel like is very similar to Coach Heupel is Jim Harbaugh. And I think that just because he's very meticulous in the way that he plans things out, we see and we know that he will do anything to make sure that his team can win. I think that Coach Heupel is kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that he's a cheater or nothing, but I think that he does, him and his staff, they all plan things out maybe 3 to 4 years out from, where they are currently. And they say, okay, where we're going to be at here. And they have a plan. So, it's not just that, but also out there on the field. You can tell that, we have a plan to attack an offense or to attack a defense. Now, we are going to have to get a little bit better at finding a backup plan. The first one doesn't work. I don't think that we've adjusted very well at halftime sometimes, but I think that this is going to be the year that, Coach Heupel kind of learns from that. We're talking about the Alabama game last season. I think that Coach Heupel, Coach Banks, I feel like, they're going to be learning from that experience. And we saw that, that Jim kind of dealt with the same things early on as a head coach. So again, these things are really pointing towards, I think that we are in a good spot right now with this team, with the way that Coach Heupel has built it to win a championship. Now, talking about everybody else, right? Nick Saban being the GOAT, most definitely starting off, he was a jerk. He toned it down a lot towards the end there. But, I wouldn't say that he's as much of a jerk as like a Kirby Smart. I think that Kirby Smart's, he's more of an arrogant person, right? He's very arrogant, very full of himself, thinks that he knows everything. So he's more of a jerk on that spectrum. I would say that Saban is more of a jerk like a Jimbo Fisher, whereas Kirby is more of a jerk like an Urban Meyer. And I'm just going to tell you this, once things come out, once that 30 for 30 comes out on UGA over this little run that they've had, I'm going to tell you, it's going to be just as juicy as what we know about Urban Meyer while he was down there with those Gators. But yeah, I don't think that it's so much just about the coach being just a complete and total a-hole. It's more about them demanding excellence, right? It's more about them being very stern and not really willing to waver off of the expectations that they have for their team, whether it's the players or the coaches, staff, everyone, just holding people to a higher standard. And I feel like Coach Heupel most definitely has that. And he also has a perfect balance of kind of being that nice guy that the players can kind of, chill with. They can vibe with. They feel like they can talk to him about anything. That's so important. I think that he is the best of both worlds. And, once it all comes together, we'll see how everything plays out this season. But I feel like on down the road, if we can kind of keep our staff together, that's another question mark. How does Coach Heupel do having some, different coordinators and, different guys coming in and out of the staff all the time, like Nick Saban did? That's going to be coming here at some point as we have more and more success. But I think that he's going to deal with it well. Again, he's kind of learning some things on the fly, but he's learning it very quickly. So I think, this window, we're going to know a whole lot about Coach Heupel. And if he can take us to the promised land, I think that we're going to get there this season. But y'all let me know y'all's thoughts down in the comments section. And as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. We'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.